Welcome to Used Car News Podcast. Used Car News is your top source for fast and reliable news that car dealers can rely on for this evolving industry. Here are this month's top stories. Pace of automotive recalls leveling but still increasing. Tariffs roller coaster ride. Report shows auto transport industry's vitality. But first, we'll hear from Lainey Sibble, Senior Director, Central Dispatch Business Operations and Strategy, and Eric Schwartz, AVP of Product and Engineering, Central Dispatch and Ready Logistic.
Hello, everyone. This is Jeffrey Belant, Managing Editor of Used Car News, and this is the Used Car News Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We got something different this time. We've got the folks from Cox Automotive and Central Dispatch. We have Lainey Sibble, who's head of Central Dispatch. Welcome, Lainey.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for being here. And we also have Eric Schwartz, as AVP of Product and Engineering over at Cox. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks for having us on, Jeffrey.
Hey, appreciate you guys being on. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about tariffs and the economy and everything, but obviously, dealers are about inventory and getting inventory to and from their places, as well as auctions. For you guys, what are you seeing new with the digitization of everything? What are you guys seeing in your areas that help dealers, but also trends you're seeing on the digital front affecting logistics and transportation?
Yeah. So, Jeffrey, great question. I think the digitization in the industry really presents a great opportunity for dealers because it allows them to really expand the region within which they look to both source and then sell vehicles. So I think there's a great opportunity here.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I think with that opportunity comes the ability for us to drive the digitization specifically within the logistics industry itself. I think historically, a lot of people have still used paper and pen or various disparate systems, and we at Central Dispatch are really focused on transforming the logistics industry so that all dealers can take advantage of seamless digital capabilities throughout the transportation lifecycle.
What do you see as what's the hesitancy for dealers? I mean, obviously there's always digital doing some guys who aren't tech savvy. There's partially that, but what are the ways that you guys, when you talk to dealers or have clients, how do you get them in to get them to buy into what you guys are offering?
Yeah, so you mentioned hesitancy. I think one hesitancy is really a lack of transparency of knowing, am I going to be able to find a transporter to move this vehicle? And how much is it going to cost me to move this vehicle? And how should I think about kind of the total cost or the total buy-in there? So, one of the things that we're doing at Central Dispatch is we are providing tools that bring more transparency to those big decisions, like how to price. So we have a great new tool called Price Check Plus, which is really providing our customers with a predicted price on the cost to move any vehicle based on millions of moves every year.
I also think the other thing we see is dealers are really good at buying and selling cars. And from Central Dispatch's point of view, we want to empower dealers to focus on what they do best. So it means you need, in the logistics space, something that is as seamless as possible and really as simple to use as it can be. And therefore, we want to let dealers focus on what it is that they do best. So our mission and our goal is to make sure that we're injecting simplicity into that transportation process at every point that we can.
For you guys, what you're seeing, I don't know, in terms of inventory, are you seeing any trends in inventory? I mean, inventory dips and rises depending on the market. At this point, is there any struggles you guys see in the logistics space with either inventory being too low or too high, and you don't have enough drivers or all that stuff?
Yeah, I think from a logistics standpoint, we see a lot of seasonality. And so in those periods during the year when there are more vehicles to be moved because of the spring bounce in the broader industry, because of snowbirds moving vehicles, we tend to see that spike in inventory, which of course can lend itself to then potentially, less capacity to move those vehicles, higher rates. So it tends to be pretty cyclical.
And for you guys also, what are when you hear from clients, when you hear from dealers, obviously simplicity is one, seamlessness, like Eric was talking. Is there fears or there concerns or there issues that they want. Like, in other words, it could be stuff that you've expected that dealers to ask you about, what they want, or these are the issues that they have with transportation. You mentioned, Lainey, about transparency. Was there anything else that you see that dealers ask about, or services or features that you have that really scratch a dealer's itch there?
Yeah, I can tell you our customers and our dealers are never shy about letting us know the problems that they need to get solved. And it's part of what makes for a great ecosystem and why we love dealers so much. I would say two of the things that we hear very frequently are transparency. And what they mean by that is, I want to know who it is that I'm working with. So we made a lot of investments recently into making sure that we're showing as much information about carriers to all the dealers who are in our platform. So we have integrations with the FMCSA so that you can check on their regulations or their compliance. We also have been spending time on revamping our rating system so you can see whether the carrier who you're choosing to work with, what's their history look like, how many moves have they done, how have others rated that carrier in the past. But we're also starting to see a lot more requests around intelligence and decision making. So before I make a decision about who to work with, we try and show as much information about the carrier. But upstream of that, dealers, who I mentioned are really good at buying and selling cars, they may not know how to price that car. So one of the things that we released back at NADA was Price Check Plus. So we're helping to inform you, as you have a vehicle you just purchased from 700 miles away, how do I price the logistics of getting that vehicle to my dealership so that I can get it here as fast as I can, and then I can sell it as fast as I can. So we offer a robust amount of information around not only an AI predicted price as to what price will get that vehicle to move, but we also show comparable listings saying in the past, people who have moved vehicles between that lane, what's been the price that it's been listed at? Has it been dispatched at that price? If not, what was the final price that that vehicle was dispatched for? All to inform better decision making on behalf of the dealers.
Those were great call outs, Eric. And I'll add one more piece onto that, which is the transparency that we know a lot of dealers want around the status and condition of their vehicle while it's in transport. So once they have connected with the carrier, they've decided how to price it, they've entered into a contract to have that vehicle moved. They want peace of mind about the condition of that vehicle when it's picked up, where it is throughout that whole delivery process, and then the condition of that vehicle at drop off. And so one of the other new products or features that we launched over the last year or so is a carrier mobile app that provides that real-time tracking right back to the shipper or the dealer on where that vehicle is, so that they have that confidence of where it is throughout that whole process.
Yeah, that's funny. It reminds me, my dad's a car guy, and he's like a real kind of a hyper OCD guy and stuff. And I remember he got this Z28, new Z28 from a franchise dealer. This is, 79. It's actually one of my favorite cars he ever had. He bought and sold a lot of cars for fun. He just liked cars, so he got bored and got a new one. But one of those things has happened, it just disappeared. Like he was waiting for the car he was supposed to get a certain time, and the salesman trying to explain to him, yeah, we don't know where it's at. We're supposed to get it back. And my dad was flipping out. So I can imagine doing that at scale with dealers, who are, really, it's important for them to get their cars on a timetable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that we heard loud and clear in the industry overall. I mean, think about it. If you buy something on Amazon for $5, you still track that shipment all the way through.
That's true.
And it was pretty opaque within the logistics industry, which is why when we released the mobile app at the end of last year, we made it mandatory where we're tracking the carriers as they're moving. So you get real-time updates every 15 minutes within a 0.3 mile radius that says, I know my vehicle is on its way. I know it's this far away from its delivery location. And that's some of the peace and transparency that we're trying to provide to dealers.
Competition is fierce in the used car arena, so how can you ensure that your pre-owned inventory stands above the rest? Success starts with the quality of your leads. Auto Trader for Independents offers products that help drive high-quality leads for independent dealers like you.
At Stout's 12th annual Automotive Recall Summit, experts highlighted trends in vehicle recalls. Light vehicle recalls have risen since the mid-2000s due to rapid technological advancements and supply chain complexities, though the pace is leveling. Most recalls affect newer vehicles 0 to 3 years with higher completion rates, while older vehicles see increasing recall percentages and improved outreach efforts. Warranty claims for American automakers Ford, GM, and Tesla have grown over 4 years, driven by inflation, advanced technology, and longer repair times. Despite rising warranty costs and reserves, claim rates have remained steady, reflecting the aging fleet and repair expenses. Cox Automotive analysts highlighted the impact of tariffs and policy changes on the auto industry. While President Trump's recent executive order eased some tariff burdens, a 25% tariff on imported vehicles and parts remains, affecting about 50% of the market. Tariffs have driven inflation, tightened supply, and increased vehicle prices, with compact SUVs like the Honda CR-V and Chevy Equinox most impacted. Consumer sentiment has declined, slowing big purchases, though initial tariff announcements spiked new and used car sales. Tight credit, rising costs, and restrictive monetary policies add to challenges, with Cox lowering its annual sales forecast from 16.3 to 15.6 million vehicles. The State of Auto Transport Annual Industry Report by Super Dispatch provides key insights into the auto transport market, backed by data from 15,000 carriers and 50,000 drivers. CEO Matt Bradley highlights factors influencing transport costs, including fuel, labor, regional demand, and route-specific challenges. The report examines logistics issues, natural disaster impacts, and high-demand routes, with Dallas and New York as top hubs. In 2024, Super Dispatch carriers generated $4.5 billion in revenue, with the New York-Miami route leading earnings. The report emphasizes strategic planning for profitability and showcases the industry's resilience and complexity.
And now the other thing I want to talk about too is fraud. It's funny, we were in AAA last year talking to a couple folks, and you hear just the oddest, weird stories about fraud involving auctions and transportation and how that dealer tracks these things. What are you guys seeing, first of all, in terms of new efforts at fraud, and how do you guys protect against that? And what are dealers dealing with?
Yeah, Jeffrey, thanks for bringing up an important and challenging topic in the space right now. We are seeing fraud as an industry issue right now. It is still small. It's a small portion of all the transactions that are happening, all the vehicles that are moved. But that said, it has been growing, and we very much recognize that when there is an incident of fraud, it can be very impactful to all those that are involved. You know, we're taking a very strong stance here at Central Dispatch, and we are making big investments across our platform as well as our operations to really combat this industry issue. And one of the big things that we're doing is spending a lot of time talking with others throughout the industry, talking with everyone about the role that they each play in combating this industry issue, because it really is going to take all of us working together to make a dent in this and reverse the trend here.
On the fraud stuff, is it a matter of somebody receiving a car that's not their car, it's going to the wrong place? I mean, what's a typical example that you guys are seeing?
Yeah, I think there are numerous examples as to how fraud is being committed. But what we're finding in our data is the majority of cases are pointing back to identity theft. So what we're really focused on as we start to talk with other leaders in the industry is, like Lainey said, just educating everyone that we all have a role to play in combating fraud in logistics. And I'll give you one specific example, Jeffrey, and then I'd love to pivot. We could talk about dealers and what they could be doing.
Sure, that's perfect.
As a carrier, there are moments where I may pick up a vehicle from an origination location and I have it on the way to go deliver to a dealership. And we know that bad actors are getting smarter over time and using more sophisticated means to try and intercept that vehicle. Well, one of the ways that they do it is they may contact that carrier and say, I know you have a vehicle that's scheduled to be delivered in this location to this dealership. I'm really sorry, but last minute, I need to reroute you and I need you to deliver it to this parking deck. And for your troubles, I'm happy to Zelle you an extra $250 right now.
Oh, that's good. Oh my
So
goodness.
that's a common social engineering play that happens beyond just the logistics industry.
Right.
Moments like that, it's important to have your guard up and realize that as a carrier, I have a role to play in this. Just like I'd love to talk about a little bit more, dealers also have their role to play in this and say, if something feels fishy, if something feels a little bit off, stop, take a few extra seconds, make an informed, smart decision, because it's on all of us to help solve this issue together.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think my wife watches a lot of the ID channel and the crime channels, and the police always say for women, if you got a bad feeling, listen to the bad feeling. And like you said, dealers have been through so much of this stuff all the time. If something sounds hinky, it's probably hinky.
Yeah. And Eric kind of pointed to this, but I think there are a lot of steps that shippers or dealers in this case, those that are needing to move a car, can play here to make things as secure as possible. For one thing, when you're on a digital platform like Central Dispatch and you're deciding to work with a carrier, do your due diligence. Go to their company profile page, look at things like how long they've been in business, what sort of ratings do they have, check their FMCSA credentials, which show that they have the authority to actually move vehicles, check their insurance. There are a few extra steps there. We have to acknowledge we're asking the dealer to slow down and take those extra steps, but they will save headaches down the road. And just as you would kind of take a few seconds to review a merchant before buying something on Amazon, you want to do the same thing before you're moving a very expensive vehicle and deciding to enter into a contract with a carrier.
Yes, for sure. No, that's a great point. You're right, because we deal with that. We try to be careful in our own lives about stuff like that. You hear about that story about, was it Verizon, where they have that Amazon deliveries of phones, and that's what people are doing. Like, oh no, they're going to pick it up themselves from the truck, and it's not getting where it's going. It's like, if it's something like that, you can imagine what they do with cars, because the value of that item is so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of other best practices and tips for folks. What we've seen is phishing scams are on the rise broadly. So anybody who sends you a suspicious email that says, please enter your username and your password here, take an extra second and just make sure that this is coming from the right source. Be very skeptical before you enter in your information. And we're investing a lot of time and energy and dollars into combating fraud. So we're trying to do things like make sure that every one of your users on Central Dispatch has a unique username and password. We've set up 4 different user types so that they have different permissions and level of access to your account within Central Dispatch. We just released last week an audit history, so you can see for every user, when were they added to your account? When were they removed from the account? Who added them to your account? So making sure that you're staying diligent and on top of things, like not only vetting those who you're working with, but also who from within your dealership has access to your account. Do they have a unique username and password? And I would also love to talk a little bit more about not only do dealers have a role to play within the platform, within Central Dispatch, but many times they are the origination location. They are the ones who are releasing vehicles to a carrier. And it's really important in those moments that you have a clear set of processes and procedures that you go through before you give the keys to a carrier who's just pulled up to your lot.
We had a situation, a doctor I knew who had a real nice Land Rover or whatever, and he had to get it serviced. So you know how you drop the keys in the box of the franchise dealership, and he hadn't heard from him. So I called him at the end of the day, and he says, hey, I was just wondering, you guys worked on my car or whatever. He says, what car? And apparently there might be an insider, because the guy's car was gone, and I don't think they ever tracked it down. I mean, obviously it was either, somebody at the dealership, but something like that. I mean, that's kind of the type of thing you're talking about, a little bit more crude, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just build on that a bit. I know it is incredibly busy at the dealership. There's a lot going on, and it's hard to slow down and make sure that whoever you're handing over the keys to is the right person, but it's incredibly important. So, we've provided a lot of great tools to help dealers make this as secure a process as possible. And we're really committed to making sure that our customers are adopting those tools. So one example of that is we provide the ability for a carrier to assign a specific driver who's picking up a vehicle. We would really recommend to all of our dealers require that your carrier assigns that driver, not just this is the carrier company I'm working with, but this is the actual individual who is supposed to pick up that vehicle. Because then what that really unlocks down the road is they go to pick up that car, and that pickup location, if it's, a dealer, an auction, a repo lot, wherever it may be, they're able to actually look at the identity of that person standing there and ensure that it matches the assigned driver. So it adds that extra layer of security. But, that's, again, it's everyone playing a role. We're providing tools to aid that. It requires the shipper, asking for that to be followed. It requires the carrier to assign a driver and then the pickup location to check it. So you can see this is really going to be a partnership all around to combat this issue in the industry.
Yeah, if they do it for Uber, why not for that? To have a driver, that what you're getting. What about you, Eric? What are some of the other things about dealers to look out for or that you would recommend?
I think Lainey said it really well. When a carrier assigns the driver, it's listed on our dispatch sheet from Central Dispatch. So if you're a dealer, before you throw the keys, like Lainey was mentioning, look at the dispatch sheet, look at the name on there, check the identification of the individual. In addition to that, you should also look at the equipment they just brought into your lot to go remove that vehicle and take it to its final destination. Make sure that they have an MC number, a DOT number that is visible to you on their equipment. By law, they need to be showing that. And it also gives you just one extra layer of security to make sure that the person who just showed up on your lot is the individual who they say they are. And like we said earlier, if there's any sense of uneasiness that you have, call the shipper, call the person who actually has contracted with that carrier. I know if you were a dealer and someone was showing up to get a vehicle and transport it to your lot, I'm sure you would appreciate the call saying, hey, someone just showed up.
Yes.
I think everything's okay, but I just want to check before I release an asset worth tens of thousands of dollars to this individual. So again, it kind of gets back to we all have a role to play in combating fraud. And, we are investing a lot in the solutions, but we also realize we're going to have to do this together.
Yeah, I always get so many emails, and you'll get stuff that you'll see it and it's targeting me specifically. Like it's a type of email I would get, and I hesitated and I thought, wow, man, that's pretty good. And I remember a FBI person spoke at an NADA conference to dealers, and they had a woman at a dealership where they got tons of purchase orders or whatever, and she go through and she got caught approving a humongous purchase order that was fraudulent, but it was so in line with what they did that, if you don't take an extra look, you get caught.
Yeah, I can imagine for dealers that have consumers that are walking through your lot looking to buy cars. And again, that is the crux of what a dealership should be doing. It gets very easy to overlook those simple moments. But we are investing a lot of time and energy into combating fraud, being able to identify those types of phishing emails before they ever get out, working with Cox Cybersecurity, and developing as much as we can in reporting and transparency to all of our customers so that they can better fight fraud as well.
Excellent. And Lainey, as we go to wrap up, what are you seeing for you guys going forward? Or what are the things you guys are looking at in the future, if you can talk about it, or what you're seeing trends in the business from your perch there?
Yeah, I think that, from a fraud front, I don't think that these criminals are just going to back away easily. However,
no, man.
No, unfortunately, that's not usually the case. But, I do see us really bending the trend here, because as there are more digital tools being provided like those by Central Dispatch to ensure safe and secure vehicle transport, and as we are able to educate our customers in the industry about how to utilize those tools more effectively, I see us really combating a lot of this and preventing a lot of it from occurring. And I think it's going to be really important as as we're kind of pressed to be able to source inventory from further distances, sell inventory at further distances. And we're really committed to helping dealers be able to achieve that.
Yeah, and obviously the fraudsters want low-hanging fruit. I mean, the more difficult it's made, that's increases your chances that you'll be protected. That they want to go after the easy market.
Yeah. I'll just add from an overall industry standpoint, we're really invested to make transporting vehicles more transparent, with less friction, more efficiency, and we're going to continue to drive that and making this a space that dealers can really use to their advantage, using logistics to their advantage, as opposed to kind of a necessary evil and something that they just need to incorporate in order to be successful in what they do best, which is buying and selling cars.
That's great stuff. What about you, Eric? Anything else you want to add? Any, last thoughts that you want to leave our dealers or, auctions, anybody that's involved dealing with logistics and transport?
Yeah, I think I would just add that the future is really bright for central dispatch. We spent the last year transforming from being a load board where you can market your move and try and get a carrier to call you, to really being an end-to-end marketplace where you can complete the transaction from beginning to end. So by releasing new tools that help you manage dispatching your vehicle to carrier, the mobile app so you get transparency and visibility throughout, we want to continue to make these tools simpler and easier all along the way. So you have one marketplace where you can do everything that you need in moving your vehicles. So what I would expect you seeing in the next 6 to 12 months is us continuing to invest in that platform, in that marketplace, so that we are making it as simple as possible. So what does that mean? It means putting pricing information right in front of you the second you have to make a pricing decision. It means putting additional information about that carrier, their history, their performance, right in front of you when you want to make a decision about who to work with. And it's going to be about adding more tools so you're completing the entire transaction, beginning to end, all within our platform. And on top of that, we're investing in intelligence and reporting so you can understand the trends in the overall marketplace. At the end of last year, we released this new market intelligence report that starts to let you know how many vehicles are moving, where are they moving to and from, what's happening from a macro perspective on overall pricing. That's an area that we continue to invest in, and you're going to see more and more come out from Central Dispatch that firmly establishes us as the thought leader in the space.
Awesome. Oh boy. On behalf of Used Car News, I want to thank Lainey, Sibble, and Eric Schwartz and the folks at Central Dispatch for spending time with us. And hopefully this will be really helpful. I think it will be for our dealers. Maybe we'll talk again in the future, but thanks a lot. And thanks for being on Used Car News podcast.
Thanks for having us, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thanks for listening to Used Car News Podcast. Each month, we'll bring you fast and reliable news that car dealers can rely on for this evolving industry. For a free subscription of Used Car News, please go to usedcarnews.com. This podcast is a production of BG Ad Group. Make sure to share us on social media and like and follow wherever you get your podcasts.